Hello, everybody. My name is Ian Kirkpatrick. I'm an author, idiot, and loin streamer, and we've got a big update on a push from OpenAI and Google in regards to generative AI. So we're going to talk about that news, a couple of other smaller items, but mostly that's the big thing. And considering that it's Google and OpenAI pushing for the abolishment of intellectual property for their own personal gain, while also keeping their stuff under wraps because they think that they should have copyright and patents on their stuff, on their intellectual property, but not you. We're going to get into that and a couple other things. But before we get started, number one, if you enjoy what I do here on the channel, please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Number two, if you would like to be featured on the channel, check out the links down in the description below. The first way is through Lamwai, the monthly prompt writing contest, where I give you a prompt, you write a story based on that prompt or inspired by that prompt, and on the first Monday of the month, we bask in your creativity. The second way to be featured is if you are an indie author and you have a book out or a book that is coming out. If you submit the first chapter and the cover, that chapter will be read here on the channel to hopefully help more readers find your work. The third thing is, if you would like to check out any of my books, they're available at any of your favorite places to get books. And my newest novel, the first in the Legend of Bill Cassidy series, should be coming out later this year. More information to come. It's going. With that said, let's get into the topic. By the time this video comes out, it's very likely that there will be updates because the stuff with the generative AI is happening rapidly. Because this happened in the middle of this last week. I'm shooting this on Sunday, March 16th. And so it's obviously, it hits. It slaps. It slaps in a bad way. So we're going to just jump right into it with the header of everything. OpenAI and Google ask for a government exemption to train their AI models on copyrighted material. They also advocate for broad government adaptation of AI tools. This is a way, in my opinion, for it to bury itself in the government so that now there is a vested interest with the government. If you're going to lobby for government changes, for law changes, so you can abuse the law or be overlooked by the law, then you get the government tied into it because now the government is going to look over a lot of things. So for me, this looks like an attempt to get the government invested in the thing that they want to pursue and to denigrate. So then the government doesn't do anything to stop them. OpenAI is calling on the Trump administration to give AI companies an exemption to train their models on copyrighted material. In a blog post spotted by The Verge, the company this week published its response to President Trump's AI action plan. Announced at the end of February, the initiative saw the White House seek input from private industries with a goal of eventually enacting policy that will work to enhance America's position as an AI powerhouse and enable innovation in the sector. I think we need to have an honest conversation of what AI means because it is just being thrown around right now as a trendy thing. Generative AI is not AI. It's an advanced search. It's advanced photo bashing. America's robust, balanced intellectual property system has long been key to our global leadership on innovation. We propose a copyright strategy that would extend the system's role into the intelligence age by protecting the rights and interests of content creators while also protecting America's AI leadership and national security. So apparently ripping off all of your novels and images on the internet is a matter of national security. I would like that to be explained further than trying to throw out buzzwords because I see absolutely no reason for them to be consuming copyrighted books like Stephen King, like every other of the millions of books, of the trilobytes of books Facebook has consumed off of pirated websites, of all of the individual art from literally every website that has art on it. I think that we have an actual issue with fraud that is being caused by generative AI and false product and false, fraud includes their fake reviews everywhere. Fraud includes the fake products that are being put out. Fraud includes the fake videos that are being put out en masse, and that has already been happening. Anyway, OpenAI writes in its submission, the federal government can both secure America's freedom to learn from AI and avoid forfeiting our AI lead to the People's Republic of China by preserving America's AI models' ability to learn from copyrighted material. Can we talk about the freaking tropes going on here where it's, look, we need to be able to steal from the worldwide population in order to secure national security and also beat China? What is this? A freaking thriller novel? A techno thriller novel? Because all of them it's always the CCP. I swear. They're like, it's the boogeyman. Just read a little bit more anymore. They're literally, these people are just reading Tom Clancy and being like, steal that. Let's steal it. It's not even funny. In the same document, the company recommends the U.S. maintain tight export controls on AI chips to China. It also says the U.S. government should broadly adapt AI tools. Incidentally, OpenAI began offering a version of ChatGPT designed for U.S. government's use earlier this year. Can you imagine if they were just freaking on character AI with the U.S. government and freaking tricking people, like the old people in the government, that they're actually talking to somebody, but it's just friggin' character AI. And this week, Google also published its own list of recommendations for the president's AI action plan. Like OpenAI, the search giant says it should be able to train AI models on copyrighted material. Quote, balanced copyright rules such as fair use and text and data mining exceptions have been critical to enabling AI systems to learn from prior knowledge and publicly available data, unlocking scientific and social advances, Google writes. These exceptions allow for use of copyrighted publicly available materials for AI training without significantly impacting rights holders and avoid often highly unpredictable, imbalanced, and lengthy negotiations with data holders during model development or scientific experimentation. Pause here. So this is them outright saying that they're already violating copyright by using copyrighted material, but they just think that they should be allowed to do it. They also claim that they are not significantly impacting rights shareholders when they are literally stealing content and data. What is the word? It was like the word for when you're washing your fraud off or trying to hide your fraud. But they are significantly impacting, and it's visible through the way that artists have talked about losing work, have been losing commissions, writers losing commissions, stuff being buried in the bookstores because of fraudulent books with fraudulent covers. They also just say here, oh, we need to codify this. We need to change the law so we don't even have to negotiate with rights holders. So they're trying to pretend, look, we're not affecting rights holders, but we really don't also want to negotiate with rights holders. Why would you not want to negotiate with rights holders if there wasn't some major conflict going on here? Because it sounds like there's a major conflict going on here, and you're like, but we know that we're not going to get what we want if we have to talk and ask permission from people. Because, you've already been told no. Last year, OpenAI said that it would be impossible to train today's leading AI models without using copyrighted material. Again, here is another admission that they are breaking copyright law. The company currently faces numerous lawsuits accusing it of copyright infringement, including ones involving the New York Times and a group of authors led by George R.R. Martin and Jonathan Franzen. At the same time, the company recently accused Chinese startup of trying to copy its technologies, which that is hilarious when you see them saying, oh no, it's fine if we steal stuff, but not for them. What they are trying to do is steal your negotiation power, your work, because what does intellectual property actually do? You spend the time learning your craft, creating that work of art, whether it's music or literature or a visual image of some kind. You've put in the work to design and create this. And because it is yours, you have the ability to negotiate with agents, with movie studios, with even just individual buyers to sell that thing. It doesn't matter where you are in the economic ladder, you have negotiation rights now for selling that thing that you have made. And what they're trying to do here is take that away from you and say, no, we get your negotiation rights because we have more money. So we can just sell stuff because we're more visible than you are. But we want our stuff protected from China, who is trying to rip us off. Bro, they're trying to get ahead of this because they have all of these lawsuits. Well, they get ahead. This is the only Hail Mary that they have left to get ahead of all of these lawsuits or to try to defeat these lawsuits because they know that they violated copyright. They've allegedly killed somebody because of them whistleblowing and going to speak out against the company in court. I cannot believe that that is not being made more of a thing. This is a big international scam, a big international fraud of mass proportions, international theft by a couple of companies in California and whoever else is involved with freaking OpenAI and Google. It is insane the level of scandal that this is, the level of abuse that this is. And now they're appealing to the White House to be like, well, let us off. Because if you just say that we can train on copyright materials and defraud the entire world, then all of those lawsuits are dead. That's the only thing that they can do. Meanwhile, with Edward Newton Rex, we have there you have it, the final gamble of AI companies that use copyrighted work without permission. They are trying to persuade governments that assessing the life's work of the world's creators without payment is a national security issue. No matter that we don't know if a current ML approaches will lead to AGI, no matter that there is no real evidence that taking the world's creative work without payment is required to build many of the models the governments are presumably most interested in, defense, healthcare, etc. No matter that most AI companies have claimed it's impossible to license their data without having tried. No matter that, if other countries are ignoring copyright, there are existing international laws that can be used to stop them. No matter that, if AI supremacy is your only goal, there are any number of awful laws that can be justified. We must win, so copyright must die. And it's all, as far as I can tell, and as far as my assessment goes on this, it's all because they don't think anything of anybody that's not them, anybody that's not specifically putting money in their coffer, because what comes across to me is these Silicon Valley types think themselves better than everybody else. You're nothing, so you deserve to be data mined, you deserve to be skill mined and not paid, and to own nothing. You shouldn't even own your labor. It should be going to this upper echelon that believes that they have a right to own your labor, your life, your identity, and sell it at will. And please take note, this isn't just for OpenAI and Google and any of these other frauds. If you erode copyright or IP rights, it will be used by every other corporation. You will have no negotiation rights because you will not own your own labor. You will not own your ideas. In the letter from OpenAI, it includes copyright promoting the freedom to learn. And it is also such a bogus thing to use anthropomorphized words like learn for a computer when it's not a human. American copyright law, including the long-standing fair use doctrine, protects transformative uses of existing works, ensuring the innovators have balanced and predictable framework for experimenting in entrepreneurship. This approach has underpinned American success through earlier phases of technological progress and is even more critical to continued American leadership in AI in the wake of recent events in the PRC. OpenAI models are trained to not replicate works for consumption by the public. Instead, they learn from the works and extract patterns, linguistic structures, and contextual insights. That means that our AI models training aligns with the core objectives of copyright and fair use doctrine, using existing works to create something wholly new and different without eroding the commercial value of those existing works. Incorrect, because one of the fair use doctrines in copyright law includes, does this thing compete with the original thing that it is copying? And in the case of this, it does. And it's funny that they never bring that up. They also just use a bunch of fancy words to tell you it's copying it, but like, don't worry, bro. Also, we still have no argument as to why you need to freaking copy everybody's work, fiction, nonfiction, visual arts. Like, what does visual arts have to do with national security? What does having copied every image on the internet, including a bunch of child pornography, have to do with national security? Who exactly are you helping other than yourself? America has so many AI startups, attracts so much investment, and has made so many research breakthroughs largely because of the fair use doctrine promotes AI development. In other markets, rigid copyright rules are repressing innovation and investment. Maybe you deserve to be repressed. I'm just saying. The European Union, for one, has created text and data mining exceptions with broadly applicable opt-outs for any rights holders, meaning access to important AI inputs is less predictable and likely to become more difficult as the EU's regulations take shape. Unpredictable availability of inputs hinders AI innovations, particularly for smaller, newer entrants with limited budgets. The UK government is currently considering changes to its copyright regimen. It has indicated that it prefers creating a data mining exception that allows rights holders to reserve their rights, creating the same regulatory barriers to AI development that we see in the EU. And these people, we've known from the day one that it's been head in the door method, where they're like trying to get in as much as they possibly can before the axe came down, and then shortly after they just started rushing the door to try to steal as much data as they possibly could. You also saw the agents or the supporters of this theft going, well, it's already happened, so you might as well just like give up. It's already here. How about no? Because that's how every civil rights battle has been fought, because that has already been the rule, and now we're fighting against the rule to change the law. So no, it doesn't matter that you've already been abusive. You're going to get what's coming to you. Applying the fair use doctrine to AI is not only a matter of American competitiveness, it's a matter of national security. Can you hear this person? OpenAI needs to shut its mouth about American competitiveness, because this isn't about American competitiveness. This is about OpenAI's competitiveness. This is about OpenAI taking advantage of people for itself, because American competitiveness is allowing people to own their own rights to their work so that they can compete in the marketplace by selling their books to agents, by selling their books to publishers, by being able to actually put that stuff out there. Not this theft to create fraud. So that one company or two companies that freaking make up a monopoly in California can own everything? Screw off. The rapid advances seen with the PRC's DeepSeek, among other recent developments, show that America's lead on the frontier AI is far from guaranteed. Given concerted state support for critical industries and infrastructure projects, there's little doubt in the PRC's AI developers will enjoy unfettered access to data, including copyrighted data that will improve their models. If the PRC's development have unfettered access to the data and American companies are left without fair use access, the race for AI is effectively over. So if they can't violate everybody's rights for your property, for your brain, for your productions, then they lose, because they cannot exist without theft. Now, can you imagine? I can't ever recall having seen, and maybe that's because I don't follow science stuff as much, but it also hasn't been pushed in the news. So if any of you guys follow science stuff more and have seen this argued quite as passionately as this by such big companies, please let me know. But can you imagine if universities or scientists in America, by and large, whatever the biggest scientist organizations were in America, going, look, human rights are great, but so long as we value human rights and we can't experiment on humans, we're going to fall behind in medical advancements. So long as we can't do live human bioengineering, we're going to fall behind in the world, in the world politics of human adjustments, of human augmentations, of human DNA splicing. We don't see scientists so openly saying we would like to degrade and diminish human rights and respect so that we can advance medically, because some people are just worth less, and so we should use them for medical advancement. We don't see that. So what is this? It's insane. A copyright strategy that promotes the freedom to learn. America's robust, balanced intellectual property system has long been key to our global leadership on innovation. We propose a copyright strategy that would extend the system's role into the intelligence age by protecting the rights and interests of content creators while also protecting America's AI leadership and national security. The federal government can both secure Americans' freedom to learn from AI and avoid forfeiting our AI lead on the PRC by preserving American AI models' ability to learn from copyrighted material. To protect the U.S. developed IP needed to operate data centers in Tier 1 countries, security requirements could include prohibiting relationships with Tier 3 countries' foreign military and intelligence services, and the use of data centers to support military intelligence missions for Tier 3 nations of human rights violators, banning the use of PRC-produced equipment and models that violate user privacy and create security risks such as the risks of IP theft, maintaining corporate control by entities headquarters in Tier 1 countries, implementing and constantly modernizing cybersecurity, model weight security, and personnel security controls that ideally are globally synced and coordinated among Tier 1 governments. Maybe it's just me, but I don't think that cybersecurity should be run by an idle model. I think that it should be run by people who can watch what's going on, because you get false positives, because you get things that can control anything that is a program but cannot control a human being. You can get different levels of attention to detail. I don't think that it is something that you should be relying on anyway, because anything that you want a clear, close eye on is not something you want to put on an idle thing that'll do its own thing in the background that you're not even watching. Meanwhile, over here from Nate Hake, who is reporting on Travel Lemming's response to OpenAI and Google's begging the US for special AI copyright so that they can steal from regular people. Travel Lemming is an American small business under threat of censorship by and theft from big tech companies like Google and OpenAI. Travel Lemming urges the administration to reject the proposals of those companies for reverse wealth transfer from millions of American creators and rights holders to these to abusive companies. Instead, the administration should create an AI action plan that protects small creators and publishers, maintains copyright protections, facilitates a robust and competitive licensing market, and requires transparency and disclosure of all AI-generated content. Any AI action plan must not undercut copyright incentives to create. Fundamentally, generative AI is an extractive technology. It works like a compression algorithm, reducing its training materials to weight and biases that are then uncompressed when prompted for an output. The key point is that generative AI can only ever be as good as the material that it was trained on. LLMs cannot experience the world, therefore they are limited by their training materials. LLMs require new, fresh, human-created materials in order to function. If America is to remain competitive in the AI age, then we must make sure that the incentive to create is not eroded. That is, unfortunately, exactly what the proposals by OpenAI and Google would do. They want this administration to give them a corporate handout by changing copyright laws to allow them to freely train on materials that they did not create. Why should big tech companies be allowed to steal from millions of American creators and worldwide creators, I would like to add? Being a creator is one of the most coveted careers by Generation Z, yet that career path will be totally closed off if Google and OpenAI get their way. Not only that, I would like to add that it disincentivizes learning the trade, and also the fact that we're already disincentivizing and even training younger generations to not learn the crafts and to just lean on somebody else doing it for them. They will be lost arts if people don't focus on learning how to do things and encouraging kids and encouraging the next generation and even just younger adults to pursue the craft, to learn and love what it is that they are creating or engaging with, and just what is the value of storytelling. What you're doing, especially, is commodifying all of these things whose bigger purpose is beyond commodification, is beyond making money, but it's being reduced to this thing of nothing more than how much money can I make, to gig work, to fraudulent labor, to transfer the money from one person to another. It is essential to freedom that these large corporations not be permitted to steal content from creators and publishers like us. If you permit that, you are stifling freedom of speech and ruining the thing that makes America great, our many small and diverse points of view. 2. Google is already using AI to censor the web and control flow of information to the American public. Google and OpenAI are not companies that can be trusted by America. We can attest to that from personal experience. Google in particular wants to use AI to pivot from being a search engine to being the answer engine. They trained their AI on publishers, and now Google's goal with AI has been to become a singular publisher of all information on the internet. For example, at Google's I/O 2024, the company announced that in the future, Google will do all the Googling for you. Google's plan is clear. Google wants to control the internet ecosystem. In this future, Google.com will become the internet, a single mega website that users never need to leave. Users will be steered towards publishers and information that Google approves. Google is also currently in the process of erasing human creators like our website from the open web. For instance, on September 14th, 2024, Google changed the publisher's guidelines to remove its previous instructions that content should be created by humans for humans. That very same day, Google released the first of several algorithm updates that erased every small publisher, including us, from Google's search results. You can read more about how Google is using AI to censor small publishers like us in this CNET story. 3. Generative AI output is not fair use when it competes with the original creator. The purpose of the American copyright law is to protect the incentive to create, yet generative AI companies are seeking to erode that incentive with an overly broad and unfair interpretation of fair use. When an OpenAI output competes with the material it's trained on, it is not fair use. Yet Google and OpenAI continue to push generative AI as a tool that competes with those of us who create the original data, which is actually very funny to consider if you look at like the video I did last Saturday where you have the book peddlers who are saying, well, I use this as a cover designer, but it's not like a violation of anything. You're competing directly, you're using a ripoff, you're using theft to compete directly against what it has been trained on, which is the artist's work, which is why generative AI is always a problem because of exactly where it comes from and what it's doing. Virtually every AI product demonstration by these companies includes an AI travel planner use case. These use cases fundamentally seek to replace American travel publishers like us, the same publishers whose content was used to train the system. If Google is allowed to train on our data without our consent or compensation, publishers like us could be put out of business. 4. Even Google has admitted that creators should get paid when their data is used by AI models. Google CEO Sundar Pichai told the New York Times Deal Book Summit that, quote, "There will be a marketplace in the future, I think. There will be creators who create for AI models and get paid for it. I think that that's part of the future and people will figure it out." Even Google has even done AI licensing deals for some entities, but like paying $60 million per year in licensing fees to Reddit. But now Google asks this administration to pull up the ladder for small rights holders, publishers, and creators. This administration should not sanction Google's efforts to steal from small publishers. It should not allow Google to build a centralized internet where only a few voices selected by Google can be heard. 5. The administrator's AI action plan could focus on transparency for users and control and compensation for creators. The administration's AI action plan should focus not on giving away creators' content to big tech companies, but rather on ensuring a fair market with competition and freedom of speech. First, the government should ensure that publishers and creators have effective consent mechanisms so that we can decide when and where our content is used by AI systems. Right now, Google presents publishers with a Hobson's choice. Either block your content from appearing in Google's search results, effectively erasing your business from the internet, or let Google's AI product use your content to inform their output and compete against you. Tech companies should be forced to give granular control to rights holders so that we can choose when, where, and how our content is used. Furthermore, any AI action plan must encourage a robust licensing marketplace so that the incentive to create is preserved. Google and OpenAI are spending billions of dollars, perhaps trillions, on data centers for compute. They are literally building nuclear reactors to power their generative AI business, not to better society. These companies should be required to at least equally invest in the humans that create the data that powers these models. In their comments on the AI action plan, both Google and OpenAI admit to training data has an immense economic value, which they are stealing. So, like, they recognize exactly how much the money and economic value they are stealing from individuals, from small people, like every creator in existence, but they don't want to pay you for it, but they want to get all of the money for it and have all of the trading rights and all of it. This administration should ensure that the value generated by data accrues to the creators of the data. Lastly, transparency is an important value that should be advocated by any AI action plan. Right now, much of the AI content on the internet is not labeled as such. Many users consume content without even knowing it is AI generated. The AI action plan should include provisions to require disclosure that content is created with AI so as to prevent deception of American consumers and voters. In summary, the administration's AI action plan should advance the interests of regular Americans over the interests of a few giant California corporations. Google and OpenAI in particular cannot be trusted, and the government's plan should seek to devolve power from these entities, not to concentrate it further in these untrustworthy hands. I mean, we've got anti-monopoly laws, but it's like, ugh. So that was from Travel Lemmings. I did find it important to share this entire thing because it is a very well said response to the AI action plan. Further, with Andrea Burkov, basically, what he says is that because others steal illegally, we should be allowed to legally steal. This is what Sam Altman is claiming from OpenAI. The son of a bitch doesn't care about thousands or even millions of authors and their families depending on the outcome of their creative work. The son of a bitch just doesn't want to lose to the Chinese who stole his moat. And over here you have this AI copyright clash. OpenAI versus DeepSeek. OpenAI has advocated for the US government to allow AI models to train on copyrighted materials, emphasizing national security. Yeah, he just is mad that his money train he's not being able to steal as much. Meanwhile, copyright and antitrust lawyers take note. Google released a new AI studio, and Google employees are throwing a pirate party on social media. Google employees like ZRF are actively encouraging the use of this tool as a copyright and trademark theft machine. This not only proves Google knows Gemini will be used for infringing outputs, but shows that Google's own marketing is encouraging the illegal use. So, like, from the beginning, and this has been a constant for the 2.5 years, or the 2.5, 3 years that I've been covering this, what is the use of this other than fraud and theft for personal advancement? And it's like throwing crumbs at smaller people because you can defraud people as well, but that's just so that you get on the side of the bigger corporations to full out steal everything else. Like, you can steal too, but so long as they get to steal the most because they got the most money to thrust and the most power, and they can actually negotiate in bigger instances. Since yesterday, the Pirate Party has become rampant across social media in many languages, with many different Google employees cheering it on. Absolutely shameful behavior. And what you see here is an image, an original image, being put into Gemini and then having it replace the person with a description, but it is clearly still the same background, the same setting, completely ripping off this person. And it says, did you get permission from Lofty Girl to use her content? And could confirm that permission was not given. You get to see it here as well, where somebody had picked an anime character or a screenshot from an anime character and changed it also using Gemini. So this is literally just to rip people off. Meanwhile, Pinterest hosts a ton of images uploaded by users who don't own the rights to those images. Kind of like if you just put something on maybe Google Drive or maybe your other sorts of clouds because you're making references, or like PhotoBucket once upon a time. I know that I used PhotoBucket back when I roleplayed, so I could put characters on there, but it's just ripping everything off that is uploaded to Pinterest. And people that upload to Pinterest don't have the rights to that work, and Pinterest doesn't have the rights. The users of Pinterest don't have the rights to that works, but now they're changing it that if you've uploaded anything whatsoever, it's changing user data is just going to be ripped regardless for training. Not only, and then down here with Nate Hake, not only does Pinterest know that its users post content they don't own, but Pinterest actively encourages such postings like products like their Save to Pinterest Chrome extension. So they're actively trying to steal more and more stuff by their users and then saying, well, we're going to train on it. There's no way to contain this without just outlawing it. And when you say that, you know, you're not going to have any protections for the creative rights for the IP of anybody, you're going to end up with this. Tony Gilroy says that he won't be releasing the scripts for Andor publicly so that they won't get used for AI models. Why help the freaking robots any more than we can? So then you're going to have fewer resources of learning how to do things. You're going to have fewer resources of even reading. And I know that many artists have stopped posting their art online, or writers who have considered not publishing their work, and there's no way to get around it anywhere considering they're going to pirating websites. So what's to say that anybody who is part of this is not just going to go and buy a copy somewhere, like a Kindle book, an ebook, and then just sell it to the AI companies so that they can rip it, because why not? Meanwhile, also from Nate Hake, you have a new lawsuit challenges Google AI overviews, and it's not about copyright. Google AI overviews constitutes theft in the minds of many of us in the digital publishing space. Now, when you hear that allegation, I'd wager that your mind probably goes straight to copyright law. But a new bombshell lawsuit shows publishers that there's another angle of attack against Google's appropriation of our content via AI overviews. On Monday, American online education company Chegg filed a complaint against Google in the United States District Court of District of Columbia. But in a bit of a twist, this lawsuit isn't about copyright at all. It's about Google's abuse of its monopoly power. I am a former commercial litigator turned online travel publisher. What follows are my notes for my fellow publishers that I made as I reviewed the complaint from top to bottom. I've adapted them to fit the format of my original post on Twitter. My notes are from reading Chegg's antitrust complaint against Google. Key takeaways from publishers. So if you want to read each of his individual notes, this will be linked down in the description below to check out. But the key takeaways, this is a truly fantastic complaint, charts a new path for publishers concerned by Google's use of AI overview to exploit their content. Remember, it's not about a specific publisher, it's about an ecosystem. You could pretty easily substitute just about any online publisher for Chegg, and the complaint's overall logic and argument would work just as well. And through this, you've got a list of allegations of counts against Google, which include 7 different counts of breaking of the law in this lawsuit. So definitely check it out for all of his individual notes, because there are 44 notes in there. Meanwhile, kind of taking a turn a little bit going into the effects of over-reliance on not using your own mental power. And I know it's not always easy, but we've always known that if you don't lose something, you lose it. If you learn a language and you don't use it regularly, you lose those language abilities. It atrophies. If you don't use your muscles regularly, your muscles atrophy. You don't use your critical thinking skills, they atrophy. And what you see here from ft.com is the performance in reasoning and problem solving tests are in decline. The average scores of assessment across different domains and high income countries, teens and adult scores, use different scales. Like, look at it just go down, especially look at that literacy line just plummet. This is one of the reasons why I constantly challenge everybody or invite everybody to read many different books and even read along with the channel and to like discuss and dissect the books that are being discussed on this channel. You know, talk about what you see, what you like, what you don't like, why you think something works, why you don't see what works, and especially why I do the synopsises the way that I do when I talk about the character motivations and the character actions, because we're looking for logic. We're looking for the pattern. We're looking for, okay, character does thing. How does this lead into other thing? We're looking for small consequences and large consequences. We're looking for motivation. We're looking for logic, because dissecting a book heavily has to do with logical comprehension. And it's also often why I don't enjoy so many books, because so many lack basic logical comprehension. So it seems. While these companies and generative AI are feeding on so much information, you also have AI search engines cite incorrect sources at an alarming 60% rate, study shows. A new study from Columbia Journalism Review's Tao Center for Digital Journalism finds serious accuracy issues with generative AI models used for new searches. The research tested 8 AI-driven search tools equipped with live search functionality and discovered that AI models incorrectly answered more than 60% of queries about news sources. And I don't even know why you would want to use generative, other than being lazy. Let's be real. I don't want to say I don't know why, because the truth is laziness. But if you're looking up information, if you're trying to research, if you're trying to better understand anything, you want to be able to know what the source is, how much you can trust that, to discern, because people lie. Stuff is incorrect. And even knowing something is incorrect or an incorrect take on something still teaches you some perspective of like, okay, well, where did they get that from? How did they learn that? And so you can track it down. You need to be constantly asking questions. So then when you're just relying on this thing to like spit at you and then you uncritically take information, no wonder there's a lack of critical thought. No wonder there's a lack of being able to problem solve, because people are not questioning, okay, I'm going to ask, why is the sky blue? And then it just says, because the president of the United States injected, just like let loose blue ink into the clouds with a plane, in the same way they crop dust, but with ink. And so that caused the sky to be blue. And then you're going to have people being like, you know what? That makes sense. They have crop dusters with ink that changes the color of the sky. You have to question and be logical. And the more you become lazy and stop questioning, people just train themselves to stop asking questions, to stop looking for the logic and just accept what they're told. Researchers Claudia Jazyvinska and Aisvarya Chandrasekhar noted in their report that roughly 1 in 4 Americans now use AI models as alternatives to traditional search engines. This raises serious concerns about reliability, given the substantial error rate uncovered in the study. You know, this reminds me that there was somebody who joined the Discord just like a day or two ago, and I think it was yesterday, maybe it was Friday night, and yesterday they had been posting asking for, how do you write feeling something that like transcends words? Let me use a generative AI to describe this feeling that I'm trying to describe. Or they were asked to just like describe their book, and they wanted to use, or they did use, generative AI to summarize their book because they didn't have the ability to think through their own thoughts, their own information, and compile it themselves. That is really sad. And I'm sorry if you, that individual, is watching this. That's really sad. You should be challenging yourself. You should be thinking. You should be trying to learn how to communicate. Because up until 2022, how the frick did anybody do it? Was communication of thoughts and feelings and literature and soul transcending experiences not invented until 2022? Eventually they were like, well, if I can't talk about generative AI in this format of using it, then I don't want to be here. I'm very sad for you, and I'm very sad for anybody who relies so much on this thing where they're like, I can't think, I can't create words, I need somebody else to create words for me. Challenge yourself to do better. I know that the phrase do better sucks. Challenge yourself to be human. Challenge yourself to communicate. Don't export your communications, your experiences, and if nothing else, when you do something like that, you're saying that you don't have any thoughts. I don't know what else to take from that. You're saying you don't have any feelings. You've got to pay a computer system, pay a computer program in Silicon Valley to create an existence for you. And that's sad. Error rates varied notably among the tests. And I can't help. And like, this is going to sound super harsh, and I can't help it. But if you are that far reliant on something, you're a sucker. Because how are you going to know when you're being told something incorrect when you can't think your own thoughts? Error rates varied notably among the tested platforms. Perplexity provided incorrect information in 37% of the queries tested, whereas ChatGPT search incorrectly identified 67% of articles queried, and Grok 3 demonstrated the highest error rate at 94%. Oh! And the people that I see sucking the toe of Grok, how embarrassing. For the test, researchers fed direct excerpts from actual news articles to the AI models and then asked each model to identify the correct headlines, original publishers, publication dates, and URL. They ran 1,600 queries across 8 different generative search tools. The study highlighted a common trend among these AI models. Rather than declining to respond when they lacked reliable information, the models frequently provided confabulations, plausible sounding incorrect and speculative answers. The researchers emphasized that the behavior was consistent across all tested models, not limited to just one. Surprisingly, premium paid versions of these AI search tools fared even worse in certain aspects. Perplexity, $20 a month, and Grok 3's premium service, $40 a month, confidently delivered incorrect responses more often than their free counterparts. Can you say scam? Because like, what else is that? Though these premium models correctly answered a high number of prompts, their reluctance to decline uncertain responses drove higher overall error rates. The CJR researchers also uncovered evidence suggesting that some AI tools ignored robot exclusion protocol setting, which publishers use to prevent unauthorized access. For example, Perplexity's free version correctly identified all 10 excerpts from paywalled National Geographic content, despite National Geographic explicitly disallowing Perplexity web crawlers. Because it's all a lie. Because they say, look, we're not going to do it, and then they do it anyway, because your content is their money. Even when these AI search tools cited sources, they often directed users to syndicated versions of content on platforms like Yahoo News rather than the original publisher sites. This occurred even in cases where publishers had formal licensing agreements with AI companies. URL fabrications emerged as another significant problem. More than half of the citations from Google's Gemini and Grok 3 led users to fabricated or broken URLs, resulting in error pages. Of 200 citations tested from Grok 3, 154 resulted in broken links. They're just making stuff up and saying it confidently. These issues created significant, and this is also the problem with people calling it AI, because they pretend that it means it's intelligent when it is not intelligent at all. You are not getting anything reliable. These issues created significant tension for publishers, which face difficult choices. Blocking AI crawlers might lead to a loss of attribution entirely, while permitting them allows widespread reuse without driving traffic back to publishers' own websites. And that's something that was just mentioned in the Craig lawsuit, is this monopolization and theft. Mark Howard, Chief Operations Officer at Time Magazine, expressed concern to CJR about the ensuring transparency and control over how Times content appears via AI-generated searches. Despite these issues, Howard sees room for improvement in future iterations, stating, "Today is the worst that the product will ever be," citing substantial investments and engineering efforts aimed at improving these tools. However, Howard also did some user shaming, suggesting that it's the user's fault that they aren't skeptical of free AI tools' accuracies. If anybody as a consumer is right now believing that any of these free products are going to 100% be accurate, then shame on them. OpenAI and Microsoft provided statements to CJR acknowledging receipt of the findings but did not directly address the specific issues. OpenAI noted its promise to support publishers by driving traffic through summaries, quotes, clear links, and attributions. Microsoft stated that it adheres to the robot exclusions protocols and publishers' directives. What if they find evidence, like surefire evidence, that they don't? Like, that's a lie. Now, I wanted to cover this because, oddly enough, this topic came up multiple times in the same week. And so it was funny because there was a direct thing to quote when it comes to when it comes to using generative AI as a reference to commission an artist, and why many artists will blacklist you or not work with you if you do this. Now, I want to promise you, you do not need artistic skill or a super clear image for somebody to rip off, that you're commissioning to rip off, in order to commission an artist. But let's get into this first. With Feyre Miari, she said, I completely understand why artists hate AI, and so do I. That's why I commission artists. But I'm writing a book and I needed help from AI to get the thoughts out of my head and onto the screen for a cover that I have in mind. I used said image for reference, and the artist flat out said that they will not work with me because of my reference image being AI. Sorry, but how else am I supposed to give you a very detailed image of exactly what I'm after? I'm paying you for the art. I don't want the AI as my cover. I want genuine art. Okay, so why couldn't you just give the artist your descriptions that you gave generative AI and then communicate with the artists? An artist is a person. You can put ideas back and forth. It's not like the same slot machine in which you use AI, which the fact that the way that this is written just makes me feel like this person uses AI much more than they're implying, because you have to get your prompt right, whatever, to get it in there. But with an artist, you can back and forth. And an artist, a human artist, is going to understand nuance, is going to understand emotions. And I'm going to put a couple of images on the screen here of one of my favorite people to work with, one of my favorite artists to commission. If you give, if you donate me some money, I can get some more commissions from her. But on the left, you see the sketch idea that I gave her, and on the right you see the image. And along with the sketch image, I gave her a description of the setting, of the character, of the surrounding scene, of everything that I possibly could. And she took those and created magic. I mean, it is such skill. Then you have these other images that I got from her where I only gave her character descriptions, and I gave her relationship descriptions, and I gave her the mood of the scene, or the action of what I wanted going on in the scene. And then she created these beautiful masterpieces. I didn't give her sketches for those, but I gave her a description of what I wanted of the scenes. So this person running away from the jailers, from the guards because he's in a jail, or these three sitting around a fire in the woods, or these three sitting in a house, in a ranch house, talking to one another. And there was much more to those descriptions, thousands of words, mind you, because I was describing all of the relationships and the personalities and the ages and how they relate. And this is what it translated into. A good artist will talk to you, engage with you, understand what you're looking for, and you don't need a reference image. What happens with a lot of artists with this is because of how generative AI is trained, they don't want to work with it. It's just no. Number two, you can find videos on YouTube talking about this too, where there was even an art trend a couple months ago, I think it was, sometime last year, where people were taking generative AI images and then drawing their own versions of those things. And it is just a way of scrubbing off the serials of what someone did. There are companies that'll create stuff from generative AI and then be now draw on this so that it doesn't look like it's made of generative AI, and then pay people less for that same thing, because they're just hiding the fact that the image that they used was generative AI. And so if you say, I understand why artists hate this, but then you also use it, then I don't think you fully understand why artists hate it. And it's a very difficult thing, I think, for people not involved in art, or who don't do art, or who haven't done deeper understandings of how generative AI is trained, or the fight against AI that is being done by artists. So it looks more like ignorance, but at the same time, when you have this anger down here and what else am I supposed to do? I guess I'm just going to use AI. It sounds like entitlement, but you don't need to have these fantastical images. And what you're basically doing, it's no different, honestly, than finding an image on Pinterest and then saying, can you draw this but my character? which then just becomes like tracing, which just becomes like ripping off somebody else's thing. At the end of the day, this is all about just abolish IP. It's dead anyway, but lawfare means it's hampering US progress, and opportunity costs will continue piling on while China will race on, again using the boogeyman of China. This is what it's always been about. However, many of them say this and will never explain how. Are they under the impression that the country with the AI model that creates the best Sonic fanfiction will control the world? Or is it just a big con to generate any existing thing for the internet engagement? Which is where I see it going. Because also they will say abolish IP while also wanting to contain their IP for themselves. Finally, just as a reminder, this was settled in 2023. AI cannot hold copyright, federal judge rules. So anything that anybody uses, whether it's a book cover, a character, writing, anyone can take what you have done using generative AI and resell it and re-put it out there because it cannot be copyrighted. Which, at the end of the day, also makes it even sketchier that it seems like these companies want to use AI to make money, but also they want to erode your ability to protect your IP while their IP, well, they don't have IP, they have scam stuff. But they've got the money, so then if they can just abuse other people's IP, there is no escape. They will own it all. Anyway, those are the articles for today, the discussion for today. Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. And that was the update specifically with Google and OpenAI openly calling for the abolishment of IP. What, so they can compete with China? Again, how does ripping off millions and billions of people worldwide for their creative energy, for their creative ideas, how does that compete against China? Like, it doesn't. It's not a national security issue to freaking fit every author's books and every artist's art into this thing. You're operating to control everything. That's all that I can see from it. But let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. With that said, have a great weekend and don't die.
To my children, Tommy, Ike, and Annabelle, if you forget everything else I ever said in the lifetime we shared together, I need you to remember 3 things. 1. Minimize violence done to and by women. As givers of life, it's against their nature, God's design, to do harm, and every act of violence done to them is meant to break their souls, turning what should be a giver of hope into a black widow. A woman who destroys the life and the mercy of her care for no other reason but the corruption of her own self. It is only when you come across these kinds of women that you should put them down, for they are no better than the men who tarnished them. However, take no glee in what must be done. Finding any life so far gone, a black hole is where someone's heart should be, leaves only one solution: the mercy of death, and it's a tragedy when it happens. Make no mistake, a woman's love is the most powerful thing on this earth. It can start wars, end them, and change the devil himself into someone God sees worthy of giving a second chance. She don't owe this love to anyone, but she do carry it around with her so long as she's living. That is why the devil will do everything he can to pervert women's nature and destroy their innocence. Of every crime you can commit during your lifetime, be it out of daring or necessity, for every defiance you may act out against God, government, or man, avoid harming the innocent. For the day that we become bloodthirsty beasts where love don't exist anymore is the day hell on earth has come. And as bad as it may seem at times nowadays, we ain't there yet. 2. Everything you do in your life will create consequences, both seen and unseen, extending further than you can imagine. Nothing you do exists solely within your arm's reach. Think about every decision you make, every action you take, because you won't know how long your choices will stalk you, be them destructions or blessings, rumors or history been made. The truth of the matter is, your life will be controlled not by the truth of what you've done, but by the way others carry on about you. And the thoughts of others are more real in the long term than what you know to be true. It won't stop affecting you just because it ain't real, and no matter the life you've lived, most men can't outrun what's written in them in ink. It ain't hopeless though. Be firm in knowing who you are outside of the noise, and live beyond the means of the news of the day. 3. There ain't anything stronger than a family you build for yourself. What you put together is worth fighting for. Protect your loved ones with your life, and they'll give theirs in return. Family ain't defined by blood, understand that, And for as strong as the bonds that your family are, know that you'll find just as much passion in the people who hate you. While you'll risk your life for those you care about, those who find your existence to be an insult to theirs will risk themselves to put an end to their affliction. As cruel as it may seem, a man who hates you will stop at nothing until one of you is dead. It's a mistake to believe anything different. Don't let you be the ones taken from, be it by outlaw lawmen or by someone in between. The only one who'll be looking out for you is you and your kin. Maybe there's another way to be, but in all my years I've seen the worst of man, I ain't found another way around man's desire to conquer against all else. There ain't a changing of that mind, and sometimes I believe there ain't the ability for man to change at all, least of all through lead or legislation. I ain't claiming to be right about nothing. On many things, I don't want to be right. But what I do want is for my kids to live a better life than the one I did and avoid the mistakes that I made while finding the truth and purpose in what matter more than gold in this country. It's my hope that by sharing the things I learned that my kids will be better than their old man ever was, and that what I done isn't what people remember me for, but who y'all are going to become. That'll be the legend of Bill Cassidy.